Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the Haydn Symphony Crusade. Oh, I'm so happy. I made it to number 88. This is well, it's just 22 minutes of the most glorious anything ever written around the key of G major. Well, in and around it anyway. Oh, wow, what a piece this is. It's always been one of Haydn's most popular symphonies, but this was the piece that got me into classical music. I remember the record. I remember the moment. I remember exactly what did it to me. I've talked about this symphony before, but I wanted to make a fresh video because I can go into the details with musical examples even more thoroughly than last time. So what the heck? I mean, you can't talk about this piece enough. It is so amiable, so soulful, so tunefully delightful, so shot with musical genius, not just because I like it, but because it just is. And what struck me actually, originally, I remember even the recording. It was Fritz Reiner with the Chicago Symphony, and my grandmother had the recording. It had the Jupiter Symphony on the other side, which interested me not at all when I first heard it. But when I was listening to the Haydn 88th, I got to the minuette. I mean, I was really liking the whole thing. And the trio was this. And we're going to hear it again. I heard that and lightning struck. It had no words, but the bagpipe drones in the bass, the pastoral cast of the melody, the little bird chirps in the second half, and the violins and oboe in it. I got it. It was a picture. I had the whole scene in my mind. I understood that the music was actually painting a picture. It was telling me something. It was speaking to me personally. I just sat there with my jaw agape, like that. And I said, oh my God, music can do that. And I was hooked. That was it. And it's probably not a mistake that my next major work that blew me away was Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. Another piece that it has a very strong relationship to this symphony. And Beethoven certainly knew it, but also is an essay in musical portraiture. Wow, baby, what a thing this was. So we're going to really get into the nuts and bolts of this magnificent symphony, because not only is it unbelievably expressive and in a pastoral kind of way. That's what it is. I mean, if Haydn had called it the pastoral, Beethoven's Sixth would be a lot less of a big deal than it is. Trust me. But that doesn't mean Beethoven's Sixth isn't glorious. It is. I mean, it's amazing. But so's this. And the links are really very, 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 very clear. The Sixth and actually Beethoven's Seventh, they have a lot in common with this symphony, but that's a whole nother thing that we could do one of these years. Anyway, this symphony is written for flute, pairs of oboes and bassoons as usual, and two horns, two trumpets, timpani, and strings. And there's a story about the trumpets and timpani here as well. Let's begin at the beginning. There is an introduction. Unlike many of Haydn's introductions, this one has no discernible motivic relationship to the rest of the symphony. It's just an introduction. You know, it's Freud. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. The reason it exists is because the opening theme is so gentle and it begins quietly that you really couldn't imagine Haydn beginning a symphony out of the blue with the tune. So we're going to listen to the introduction. I mean, you could argue that there is a certain well, like numerical relationship, and that the introduction finally settles down to dun 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 da 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 bum 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 ba da 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 bum, sort of a sequence with 4 repeated notes. Well, the number 4 is going to be very, very important in this symphony. So you can make the argument, but you don't have to. And why should we bother? If you don't hear these things, obviously, in Haydn, usually he doesn't intend for you to worry about them. So anyway, here is the introduction with the Austro-Hungarian Haydn Orchestra under Adam Fischer. A lovely performance, by the way. It really is a good one. Here it is. It's no tricks. It's just, hi, we're in G major, and now we're going to hear a really good symphony. And this is the introduction to the really good symphony. That's the whole point of the introduction. And the first subject of this symphony, and all of the themes in this symphony, are constructed the same way. That's one of the things that's so amazing about it. And so before we even get to the exposition, we are going to hear all of the main themes of all 4 movements so that you get a sense of how they relate and how they're built, because that's one of the things that makes this symphony so unbelievably coherent and such a complete statement of its original idea, because the idea is bigger than any single movement or single tune. So every single theme in the symphony consists of 4 phrases. The opening theme, da 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 da, 1, da 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 da, 2, da 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 da, 3, da 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 ba da dum, 4. Get it? And so with the finale, da 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 bum, 1, da 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 da, 2, da 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 da, 3, da 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 da, 4. And they are closely related to each other. You may have noted, not maybe for my singing it. Why do we hear them? First, the theme from the first movement, then a little pause, then the theme from the finale. And you can hear they belong to exactly the same family. One is effectively a variant of the other. So, get it? So that's the first theme in the finale. Now, the second movement and third movement main themes are also related to each other in a little more sophisticated a way, actually. But the theme of the Largo, the second movement, that's the movement that Brahms said, I want my 10th symphony to sound like that. Yes. Why his 10th? I have no idea. But it is a gorgeous theme. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later. But for the moment, notice that it consists of 4 phrases, rising. And the last of them is kind of, how would I describe it? It's kind of a open-ended thing, to sort of allow the music to move forward. But it's 4 phrases, just like we heard the first movement, the finale, but these are of a different type. They rise in sequences. That's the first theme. But the minuet has the same shape of its phrases, that is, they go up and down, but the sequence descends instead of ascending. Da 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 ya da 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 do. You see? So one goes up, the other goes down, but the phrase shapes are very, very similar. And the theme of the minuet is a variant of the theme of the slow movement. So here is the theme of the slow movement, followed by a pause, and then the theme of the minuet, just so you can hear those. So as I have described, everything in this symphony is related to everything else, but not in a tedious way at all. I mean, listen to the variety that Haydn has packed into these various tunes. I mean, just the incredible catchiness of the first movement and the finale, and then that gorgeous Largo, and then that rambunctious minuet. So, there's an enormous amount of variety, but they are all built out of the number 4 and similar materials for the first and last movements and the 2 inner movements. This is how Haydn creates contrast within unity. It's just mind-blowing how fabulous this whole thing is. So now you have a sense of what the thematic material for the whole symphony is that Haydn's going to be working with. And once you know that, you know the whole symphony. I mean, if you want to just turn me off and go listen to it, I wouldn't blame you. Just do it. And then you can maybe turn me on again. Well, maybe if you feel up to it. Anyway, look, let's listen to the, before we get to the exposition of the first movement, there's one more thing I need to point out. All of the sonata form movements of this symphony, that is the first and last, are monothematic. That means they are based on a single idea. In the first movement, that idea is just the rhythm of the first phrase. It's da 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 bum bum bum. So that's the first phrase, right? But that thing, dun dun da dum bum bum bottom bum bum bottom, that rhythm, chum chum cha, that's what the basic building block of the movement is. So much so that the second subject, the second theme that you may be waiting for somewhere, you may not even notice it. It's very, very tiny. It takes a couple of seconds. It just sort of slips by in passing, just so you know when it comes in and what it is. Here it is. That's the whole second subject, because you've been hearing since the very beginning of the Allegro, dun dun dun, bum bum bum. So Haydn doesn't feel any need to make a meal out of the second subject, nor does he want a completely independent idea. He wants to operate on a very compact scale with that motive, because actually that motive, as you will hear, has an accompanying idea. It's a squiggle thing. It's that. It occurs simultaneously in the first loud outburst of that theme. So listen on the bottom, because you'll hear that. That has a separate identity in the development section. So there's really a lot of material here for Haydn to work with, but he's focused. I mean, he is focused like a laser on the potential of these simple ideas that he's created. So now, finally, we can hear the whole exposition. Are you ready? Here we go, folks. And the rest of the movement, you can just listen to it yourself because it's all that stuff. Fabulously varied and turbulently turned into the minor key and transformed and rearranged and flipped over, always in a completely coherent series of expressive episodes. And that's the first movement. Now, the second movement, the Largo, really slow. It's a completely original form, first of all. There's no point in trying to relate it to anything else in the history of humanity. It is a totally unique creation, all by itself. Even Tovey, the great Donald Francis Tovey, who was this British musicologist who wrote program notes and essays on all classical works, he's very famous. And he was such an authority when it came to discussing the form of things. And he said, well, essentially, it's a beautiful tune that the orchestra tries to escape from and can't. That's what this is. It has a melody which is so lovely, so beautiful that all it can do is repeat it. With little decorations, some little violin snigglies on top, or some chirpy oboe bird things when it comes back. That's all it is. But the other cool thing about this tune that you need to keep in mind is that each phrase sounds like it has 5 notes, but it only has 4. What you hear is da 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 dum. If you hum it back to yourself or play it back to yourself, you're going to hear it that way. It's unavoidable. I mean, I lived with this symphony for decades and always thought that theme had 5 notes. It doesn't. It has 4. The third note, the fourth note. Yeah, the fourth note, pardon me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pardon me. 6 notes, it sounds like, but it only has 5 because the fifth is a suspension. It's a suspension. It's a held note, but the harmony moves underneath it, which gives that held note a different sound, as if it's being repeated, even though it isn't. It's one of those subtleties that, you figure out after you've listened to something for 150 years. So I'm telling you now, so you don't have to wait for 150 years. It's da 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 da. That's the theme. But you hear da 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 da. That's how you hear it. It's really, these little details as life goes on get so much more interesting. It's amazing how Haydn did it. But one of the reasons he did it that way is because having a 5-note and not a 6-note theme points up the identity with the minuet, which really does have 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see? So they're both 5-note themes, only the Largo sounds like a 6-note theme. Oh, it's just, I know. I get goofy thinking about this stuff. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be silly. But it really is, it's just a lovely, exquisite detail. And the other thing about this movement that's amazing is that Haydn has saved the trumpets and timpani for this movement, for this lovely, lyrical, pastoral idyll. And this is where the military comes in. It was going to be a shock to his audiences in the day because the trumpets and drums were sitting there through the whole first movement doing absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden they play this lyrical tune comes along and bang, in they come. The trumpet and drum interruptions, of course, are designed to shake things up, to try and give the orchestra a kick in the butt and wake it up and have it do something else. But it never does anything else. It doesn't. It just goes back to the original theme, which we hear played, a little bit more lusciously. I mean, the original orchestration is gorgeous. It's for oboe doubled by a solo cello. It's an exquisite sound, which we heard already in the comparison of all of the melodies. But let me play you the version of it that comes back and then gets interrupted by the trumpets and timpani, so you get a sense of what Haydn's up to. Here you go. notice something about those trumpet and timpani interruptions, though? They too have 4 notes. Remember the introduction with the 4-note thing? No, maybe that's part of it. Who knows? But the number 4, bum, 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 bum. I mean, the symphony, it's ubiquitous, and it somehow fits. It all just fits together. So there you have the entire substance of the slow movement. It's that magnificent melody, which any composer would have been very proud to dream up because it's one hell of a tune. And then just these little interruptions and things to try and make the movement wake up and do something else. It's so charming. There's something just so sweet and adorable about it. Really, I mean, it's incredible. And I want to play you the final occurrence of the gorgeous principal theme. And then there are a couple last outbursts and then a quiet ending. So here it is. Now those bangy bits are developed a little bit. They're a little different each time they return. These are the same as they originally were. And Haydn is kind of telling us, because of the way the movement comes to a conclusion, that it's all just good fun. You know, you have someone pounding and the main theme is just sitting there going like, oh yeah, sure. Absolutely, right. That's just terrific. So, that's the slow movement, the Largo. Now, the minuet has the trio, of course, and you've heard the main body of the minuet when we did the comparison, so I'm not going to play it again. It's related to the theme of the Largo, but I'm going to play the trio section, that middle section again, without repeats, because, well, I could do the whole thing with the repeats, but you've heard it once, so here it is again, the piece that turned me into Dave the classical music guy. Here you go. So you owe Haydn either a lot of gratitude or a lot of blame. And it's a tone poem. It's just, oh gosh, it still just slays me every time I hear it. So now we go to the finale. The finale is a rondo. It is a perfect classical rondo in A, B, A, C, A form with a coda. I mean, that's what a rondo is. And the first theme is called a ritornello. I played you a little bit of it, but I want you to hear the whole thing because the ritornello has the shape of A repeated and then B, A. That is a middle section, and then it goes back to the opening section. And that's repeated. So it has 2 halves, both repeated on the initial statement. And here it is. Now, we are never going to hear the theme that way again, exactly that way. Incidentally, you may recall, remember we talked about how Haydn had that really tiny, teeny, teensy, beatsy, slender second subject in the first movement that was built from the dun-dun-dun rhythm and all that stuff? Well, that tiny little fragment is what became the theme you just heard. Second subject of the first movement. Dun 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 bum 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 bum. Get it? Another reason why we don't need a very big second subject in the first movement is because Haydn is going to develop it into, or transform it into, the theme of the rondo finale. Oh my gosh, is that cool, huh? Anyway, as I was saying, the first episode, it's actually a monothematic rondo. By the way, yes, the first episode, all the episodes are based on this tune. The first episode begins with a vigorous motion music thing, as if it's trying to go somewhere else, but it winds up back with the it winds up back with the main theme. And it plays with that a little bit, it develops it a little bit, and then it returns to the basic rondo theme. However, this time, the rondo theme is not complete. You hear, first of all, there are no repeats. So you just hear A, B, and then the C episode comes in. I'm making things a little complicated because I said the theme is A, B, A, and then you have the form is A, B, A, C, A. But it's a different B. So let's just say the form of the theme is WXW, all right, instead of ABA, and the form of the movement is ABACA, but the melody is WXW with both halves repeated, and then this time all you hear is WX. You hear the first bit of the theme, you hear the middle part, but it doesn't return to the beginning of the theme. It segues immediately into the next episode, the C episode in this case, since it's A, B, A, C. And the C episode is a triple canon based on the melody, WXW, whatever you want to call it. It's based on the melody. And a triple canon means it just has three parts. One, they follow each other at a defined distance from each other, and it's extraordinary. I mean, it really is. It goes on and on and on, and it's just one section with another chasing the other. They all chase each other until they get to the moment where we have to return to the principal theme, or ritornello, of the rondo. And Haydn, of course, makes the return as mysterious and humorous as possible, because the game is, when is the tune actually coming back? So I am going to play you this entire concatenation, the incomplete rondo leading to the C episode, leading to the return of the rondo ritornello. So you could just get a sense of the whole thing. The whole movement's only about 3 and some odd minutes long, but it has so much richness of content and invention. It's just an amazing thing. So here's that whole chunk. It's Haydn, the master of counterpoint, and he was. I mean, he was a contrapuntalist of Bachian ability. He truly was. But never has counterpoint been used to such amiable effect. You're not conscious of the scholarly, learned business behind it, although connoisseurs in Haydn's day would have been. All we're conscious of is the fact that the music sounds like totally fabulous. So there's this chase running through the orchestra as different levels are pursuing the same idea. And that's the C episode. And then we get finally a return of the WXW theme, the rondo ritornello, without repeats, but complete. You hear the whole thing. So every single time we've heard this thing has been different. First, we heard it with its repeats, two halves, both repeated. Then we heard it incomplete, leading to the canonic episode we just played. And then you hear the whole thing straight through without repeats. And this is by, that way, even though there's so much repetition, and everything is based on that one theme, it never gets tired. It never gets boring because your expectations are always being confounded. You're never allowed to settle into complacency, even though the material's familiar. That's what makes the thing so bloody miraculous. And so finally, we've heard the entire rondo theme through once without repeats, and the coda. Here it is. Yeah, the Haydn ending. 3 repeated notes. Remember that from the Paris symphonies? Chung, chung, chung. That's Haydn. I mean, he's saying, here I am. Yeah. Wow, what a symphony this is. I mean, I hope that my enthusiasm has not, made me completely incoherent, because the music is so coherent. Maybe it counterbalances my own excess of enthusiasm. I don't know. But this symphony has never gotten tired. The rest of the universe has agreed, because it's one of the most popular of all the Haydn symphonies that doesn't have a nickname. It did have a nickname. It had a nickname called the letter V, which, because somebody called it that. Nobody knows why or what it really meant. It had something to do with cataloging some of his works, maybe someday. Who knows? I mean, it never caught on. It never really did, although you do see it now and again. And for reasons no one ever satisfactorily explains. But it's just an incredible work. But from really the late 70s on, or mid 70s, Haydn's been writing nothing but incredible works. But there are some that are more incredible than others, more incredibler. The incrediblosity is just pretty staggering when it comes to this particular symphony. Wow. It's such a thrill that we got this far, and I've had a chance to talk about it with you and do this little analysis thing, because I just hope it sets you up to hear this symphony and marvel at its incredibly fine craftsmanship and brilliant expressive variety and its particular sort of pastoral character that the entire thing just exudes. Whew. All right, I'm done exuding. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.